Gabby DaRienzo is a developer and artist who has worked on Celeste, Morticians Tale, and is currently working at Drinkbox Studios. And on this episode of the Red Tunic Podcast, we talk about how they got into the industry, some words of encouragement, their Mount Rushmore of games, what makes gaming enjoyable to them, their life outside of gaming, some lightning round questions, and more. Before we get started, don't forget there are links in the episode description that you can follow to learn more about Gabby as well as the podcast. Also, don't forget to like and share the episode, and without further ado, enjoy episode 133. Hi, and welcome to the Red Tunic Podcast, a podcast where I look to rediscover what makes gaming fun and enjoyable by having positive conversations with those related to the industry. My name is Link, and today I'm joined by developer and artist Gabby DaRienzo, whose contributions can be found in Celeste, Morticians Tale, and is currently working at Drinkbox Studios. Hi, Gabby. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
You know, Gabby, as we were talking before, the pleasure is absolutely all mine. And at the risk of getting in a Canadian standoff, just thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Right back at you.
Um, However, before we do really get into it, before we do, get started, I am wondering if you wouldn't mind uh, giving me kind of like the intro of who you are, kind of like the elevator pitch or like the 411, basically the things that you feel people, the most important things that you feel people should know before like I start bugging you about other questions, you know?
Yeah, sure. My name is Gabby DaRienzo, and I am a Toronto-based indie game developer slash artist. By day, I work at Drinkbox, which is also based in Toronto, and they're best known for games like Guacamelee, Severed, and Nobody Saves the World. And we're working on our upcoming game Blighted, which is going to come out soon. And by night, I also make my own games, much smaller. Um, so games like a Morticians Tale. Last year, I made a game with some friends called Seasonal Cemetery, and I'm currently working on a small horror game that I have not announced yet, but I'm hoping will come out later this year.
So thank you for speaking to that, and I'm going to go out on a limb and make a few presumptions, basically based on your profile picture and the theme of your um the theme of your previous indie games and whatnot. Uh, you're probably excited that Halloween's coming up in a few months, aren't you?
Love Halloween. Yeah. Yeah, as a person who likes spooky things and who is gay, that's like Halloween is like pride too, you know? So I love Halloween.
So, thank you for mentioning that because it brings up something that I don't always remember uh, or remember to like ask about or what have you. The chances to ask about this, I should phrase that, are usually not that high, only because of it's weird to just to shoot this out there randomly. But it really is interesting how Halloween or the spooky season movies and such or what have you um, has been. I'm trying to think of the right words because I don't want to say it wrong. Because if I say it wrong, it sounds really bad. It's really interesting how like LGBTQ and Halloween have like the overlap of everything, if that makes any sense.
It
Sorry, I'm trying to
does,
phrase it
yeah.
very carefully because you say it the wrong way and it sounds like bigoted or whatnot, which is not the case here.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like the Venn diagram is almost a circle. It's like not everybody who loves Halloween is gay, but every gay person loves Halloween, you know? It's like, yeah, I wonder why that is. But that certainly is the case for me.
So I don't want to say this with like 100% authority, only because it's been a bit since I looked into it and read about it or what have you. But if I'm not mistaken, a lot of the foundations for some horror movies or just like as a genre as a whole or what have you, I if I'm not mistaken, I believe came out of gay culture or something along those lines. I'm
Yeah.
broad stroking it on that one, but like if I remember correctly, like the foundations of it all were out of the gay community or gay creators or what have you. So like in my mind, that's the why that the Venn diagram is so uh, overlapped, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I need to do more research into the subject because I think obviously those two things are very much up my alley. But yeah, a lot of like the classic horror movies we think of have been created by queer creators or like are tangential to queer experiences, and I think that's why like queer people like myself just like gravitate towards these topics so much. It's also like not even just movies, but also games and stuff too. Like I just I've never made a horror game before, but I've been wanting to for so long, and so I'm really excited to kind of like dip my toes into that water. Yeah.
I wish you the absolute best, only because I know that, making games is hard. And making a game that is a newer experience, newer genre, newer direction, newer focus, or what have you, I think by and large you know what I'm trying to say, is
Yeah.
also hard. So like I wish you the best of luck. I hope you have fun getting to make it. That's really the important part of it, right?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Now, Gabby, with all that being said, I am curious, how is it that you got into like the industry? Like what got you into, because you're both, you do development and you do artist, uh, visual aspects. Sorry, I'm trying to broad stroke it for whatever reason. But like what got you into, making games, working in the field?
So I kind of fell into games sideways. I always really liked games growing up, but it just, I don't know, for some reason, I just didn't think it was actually like a feasible thing to do as a career. And so instead, I studied graphic design in school. But because I liked video games so much, so many of my projects were themed around video games. And my professors all knew that I was super into games. And so when I graduated, pretty shortly after I graduated, one of my professors, she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, a former student of mine works at a game studio here in Toronto, and they're looking for like a junior graphic designer to come help them on their marketing team." And so she recommended me for the job. I interviewed for it. I got the job. And yeah, I worked on, it was like a mobile studio that doesn't exist anymore. This is like back in like 2011. That was like the peak of, Angry Birds and Temple Run and Cut the Rope, like kind of all those premium mobile games. And there was just so many mobile studios popping up everywhere. And there was a studio here in Toronto. And yeah, I worked there for about a year on their marketing team. So, like, not even touching games. And then when they needed an extra artist to help them on the games team, they just moved me over. And I learned how to use Unity, which is still like my current engine of choice. Although I'm trying Godot, I'm learning Godot, so slowly but surely. But yeah, so I started making games on that team, and then yeah, I did that for a few more years, and then I kind of got really sick of the mobile games space, and decided to get into indie games instead. And kind of the rest is history. I've just been working in the indie game space ever since then, and I can't imagine myself ever leaving. I really, really love working in indie games and working on small teams and making my own things. And yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I think, if you're in Toronto, so you're kind of in the best place for that, at least Ontario wise, because like as I've learned since starting the podcast, there actually is a huge, huge, smaller indie, macro, micro, what have you, uh, game development scene, studio wise and whatnot, just out of Toronto. So like you're in the best place for it. So I'm happy that you kind of fell into it, as you said, sideways. and have been able to continue working in the space, especially now in 2026 when
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm happy for you is the short and long of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool people here. Very, very happy to be in the scene. And, Ontario, Toronto and Ontario and Canada all have like various levels of like arts funding for video games, which I think now more than ever is very important to keeping kind of the art alive, especially for smaller games. And so I'm very, very grateful to live somewhere where the funding for sure helps studios hire people, and even the smaller grants. Like I received a small grant to make Seasonella Cemetery and Morticians Tale, and even without those, those games wouldn't have existed. So like I feel very, very grateful to live where we live, and I hope that those things continue to exist and that other places kind of look to Canada and Ontario and maybe help out the developers and artists that are in their areas. Because yeah, I think it's really important, especially in 2026.
Yes. Yes. Um, so yes, and also the arts fundings and such. Yes, I also agree. I hope that continues because uh, I forget the way it's actually phrased or the what I read ages ago, but just the importance on art and it being funded and it existing and it being available to people and being available for people to make new stuff um, is something that like might not be seen immediately the importance of it, but like 5, 10, however you many years down the road, the you know no matter how small it might appear at the time, the cultural significance and importance of funding art is something that can be seen and can be felt you know, as the ripples turn to waves or whatnot. So like I really hope that yeah, it continues and that people keep having access to it because yeah, it's important and it's especially in 2026, everything
Mhm.
in the terms of especially the art space helps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, on that somber note, I'm wondering if you have any sorry, if you have any words of encouragement for others that might want to get into the industry, or maybe even like anyone who's just was in a similar position to yourself, or even if you want to imagine, how you would have spoken words of encouragement to a younger Gabby when they found themselves sideways going into the industry or what have you. Like
Yeah.
basically, feel free to answer this however you'd like. But the question is, at its core, do you have any words of encouragement?
Yeah, kind of a hilarious tangent. I think that like there's probably a lot of students probably too, graduating or maybe even like just getting into this, or even like hobbyists or people who want to get into games that are looking at our industry and going like, ugh. And that's totally fair and understandable. It is not a great time for the industry, but I'll say that industry and art forms are not always the same, right? Like it can be a bad time for the industry, quote unquote, but a great time. It's always a great time to make art. And so I don't know. I don't ever want to discourage people from making games or from pursuing a career in games because I really truly love what I do. I love making games. And I want that for other people. I think that the message of encouragement is that industries and businesses and media, especially, things kind of come and go in waves, right? We have highs and we have lows. And, games are a newer medium compared to something like movies or music, books. But so, when we look at it historically, we don't have a lot to look at, right? It's only like a few decades. But even in those few decades, we can see the highs and the lows. And so we're at like a very big low right now, but it will get better. It will, right? It's been low before and it's gotten better. It's, the industry was at an all-time low and then the Super Nintendo came out. So like it's things look bad, but it will get better. And so for anyone who is maybe listening, who is kind of feeling a bit hopeless right now, I want to just say that, like, this will get better, and it's really important to just like do what you can to survive right now. And if that means, I know for a lot of people who've been looking for work because layoffs are just like at an all-time high, they're kind of shifting their jobs and looking for things that are tangential to their roles, but then finding ways to make games in their spare time, or taking a break from games so that they can find something sustainable for themselves and then getting back into games a little bit later. I think that that's really important. But the key part of it is like, I don't know, video games will always be there, and it might look a little bit different than how it did 5 years from now. But I think that's maybe good. Maybe it's a good thing that our industry is changing because something has to change, And I don't want to get too into it because I feel like we could talk forever about like layoffs and layoff culture and capitalism and AI. But instead, I'll just say, anyone can make a game. If you're brand new to this, if you're good at art but bad at math, or good at math and bad at art, you can still make games. And I think something that has been really nice to see is the amount of like little tiny games kind of gaining popularity and gaining traction right now. Or games that were made with like the intention of not making money, but just doing it for fun. And when I say that, the examples I'm thinking of are, Mecha Chameleon is like a game that came out like a few months ago, and it's like an online multiplayer game where you play as like little stick figure guys, and you have to run around and try to paint yourself to match your surroundings. And one person goes in and tries to find you. And that game is blown up. It has like 10 million copies sold. It was made by 2 people over a game jam over 2 months. And, they didn't expect that to blow up. And I think none of us did either. We're looking at industries and we're looking at studios like Bethesda or Xbox all together just imploding right now. And to see this like 2-person team make this small thing, and to see the overwhelmingly positive reception to it, or to look at games like Peak, for example, another friend slop game, if you will. That was a team that, after making a few very successful games, they were trying to pitch a sequel to one of their games, and they just couldn't find publisher funding for it. That's a big thing right now, is publishers are not funding a lot of things that they normally would, and they got really burnt out. And so, the teams, like Aggro Crab and I think Landfall, they were like, screw it. Let's just like have a game jam day, and we're just gonna like make a fun game for fun, and we're just gonna put it out for like $5-10, whatever. And that was Peak, and they put it out, and it did extremely well. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's also in the millions. And I don't know, to see a studio just make a game for fun with a small team and not have like, just as a product of trying to repair burnout, and to see it just be so well loved by people. And I know that those are like 2 very successful examples, but I don't know, just thinking about the amount of little games that are being beloved by players and streamers gives me hope that there is still life here. There's still life to this medium. There's still life to this art. And maybe we will see a decline in quadruple A games for the next little while, but there is still a space for small games. And so there's a very long-winded way of saying, like, don't give up hope. Um, it will get better, and try not to lose that spark of joy. And even if it means just making something really, really, really tiny, just to fuel that spark, I think it's worth doing. Um, I don't know. Yeah, that's
So thank you for speaking to all of that. And I find I have an issue when I say all of that internally. I'm like, that sounds really dismissive. It never is. It's just so hard to be like, yeah, thank you for, talking to acknowledging the fact that, capitalism is horrible, acknowledging the implosion of the like it's so hard to like just so thank you for speaking to all of that. And like you raised some what I feel are really good and interesting points. And, you know, the thing that in my mind echoed from your words has been something that a lot of developers, part of bigger teams, smaller teams, what have you, have been saying for years, and that's, uh, smaller games, smaller and shorter games, just put them out there, right? Like you don't, we don't need to have the 15 years, it feels like, for Grand Theft Auto 6 has been doing stuff. Like I don't know the overlap of how much Red Dead 2 and like I don't know these things, but like we don't need, you know, we don't need these big cycles because you're right. Small games are, smaller indie games. They can also take a while, but also, we don't need to see games funded with six, seven, 800 people and being multi-million, pushing $1 billion affairs. And, like one of the PlayStation, former PlayStation or Sony directors or what have you, I think just yesterday or today or what have you, was like, yeah, you're not going to see a game like Parappa Rappa come out in this economy. Like the studios just aren't allowing it or, what have you, what have you. And it's like, yeah, because they're so capitalism. We don't need to,
yeah,
there's a drum that doesn't need to be beat too hard there, but capitalism. And like, yes, I agree and understand completely that like, you know, m- smaller games are great, and seeing what indie developers and smaller studios or whatnot are doing and being able to like find success uh and like be successful to you know, in their by their own metrics, by their own terms, is great. And I say that in the sense of like, not everyone needs. Well, yes, it would be fantastic if you got to pour your heart and soul into a game and make 10 million copies sold, right? Like that's
hmm
fantastic thing. By all means, I fingers crossed for all the devs that push put their heart and soul into things that have that kind of success in general. But like that doesn't always need to be the goal. And
yeah,
knowing or seeing smaller games and you know finding ways to exist and have funding and whatnot. Yeah, 100%. I yes, the word what you're saying is I believe in. I think it's important as well to keep in mind that yeah, like it things will get better, the landscape will change, and if we are lucky, the landscape will be better
yeah,
once we get through the rough parts, right? Because unfortunate as it is, this is a rough part, but like we can only hope that it gets better. And the amount of the amount of passionate people that are in the industry that have been through this before, have weathered the storm, they're already out there knowing how to do it, and they're going to be finding ways to do it, and you're going to have new people finding ways to do it. So like yeah, sorry, to not to try and go on off on a huge tangent. I understand what you're saying. I agree completely, and I I hope that all these passionate people can weather the storm. Just because I think fundamentally everyone should be able to do the thing that makes them happy and be successful in it. And so yeah, just I'm hoping that the same kind of optimism. Wrong way to put it. Um, I'm I'm just hopeful. I don't want to say the
Yeah.
same kind of optimism because that sounds kind of dirty in the context, but like I hope it works out for everyone because you know it's nice to see it, and it's also the more smaller games, the more smaller teams that are surviving and getting to do things. We're getting weird little games, and weird little games are
Yes.
if you grew up on the Nintendo, you grew up on the Super Nintendo, that the PlayStation, like that era, up and even into the PS2 era, up until really like when digital releases or like what have you, you were seeing a bunch of these weird little games getting funded, and I would love for us to go back to that and see more focus on smaller games and not more focus on a game that takes like 7 years to develop and the recoup cost is going to be like 800 million and capitalism nonsense, you know?
Yeah. Because why shouldn't we have a Parappa the Rappa in 2026? You know what I mean? Like Katamari and Patapon and all these like weird little games. I want to live in a world where that happens again. And I mean, I guess we kind of are seeing that in the indie space. There are lots of little weird good games, but it'd be cool to see these big companies really put value in the little weird games again. And I'm sure it will happen again. Like again, everything is a cycle. But I just want I and I don't mean to be like I don't want this to sound like I'm being toxic. What's it called? Toxic positivity. Because obviously I speak from a position of like extreme luckiness that I am where I am and I live where I live and have access to arts funding and am at a pretty what's the word, like I feel pretty stable right now where I'm at in my career, and I know that that's not the case for most people in this industry currently. So I don't want it to sound like I'm like, guys, don't worry, it's going to get better. But I really truly think it will get better. We just gotta, I think, weather the storm, and I think also, I lost my train of thought. Something something I guess my biggest fear is like I don't th- there's the possibility that there are people out there who are about to make the coolest indie game ever, or not even ever, just something cool, something fun and unique, or even just something for them, and that they are looking at our industry and they're like, hey, actually I'm too scared to do that. And rightfully so. I don't blame a single person for not wanting to get into this industry right now, but I just really I want to prevent that from happening. I want to make sure that the people who want to make games have the ability and the flexibility and the safety to do so. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's I don't know. I think probably like a big fundamental change for our industry, but sometimes things have to crash and burn so we can like build anew. And you know, that sounds really like, I hope nothing crashes and burns. I hope everybody is safe and okay. But, I do think that, I've already said it, but like I don't think we can survive off of triple or whatever quadruple A games. Like I just don't think that that's where the industry is heading, and I think there is going to be a reset, and I think and I hope that when this reset happens, it looks like more support for workers and more flexibility for people to be able to make the things they want to make without the fear of losing their jobs or their livelihoods. Sorry, I know that your podcast is all about like positivity and talking about like good things in the industry, and I feel like I've just been talking about sad, depressing things about video games in 2026.
So there there are several things I could say, all mostly in jest, to be very, very clear. At no point was I thinking anything negative to what you were saying. It was all just jokes that would just be the same kind of pathing. But it's all good. The one of the important things that I feel when talking with developers is the fact that I'm talking with you, Gabby. I'm not talking with, corporate Gabby. I'm talking with you, Gabby, the human being, the person that exists, that lives, that has a life, that is making games. And, it's it would be wrong of me on a fundamental and personal level. But outside of that, it would be wrong of me to dismiss anything that you were saying or the direction that the conversation has went with intent, well, with like the idea of like what podcast is, and I put that in air quotes, because at the end of the day, the podcast is people I'm speaking to, and the people I'm speaking to, they're this is your life. This is a very real thing, and the things discussed are very real conversations. They're very, very real topics, like conversations that you've had with other developers in general, like industry wide, right? So, like, yeah, by no means, don't feel in any, no, don't feel any form of uh, uh, guilt or what have you for that, because it's like I said, it's the nature of the beast, and podcast is talking to developers as people, not developers as corporate entities, right?
Yeah, that's very fair. And I appreciate that.
Now, with that in mind, though, do not mind the very aggressive tonal shift for the next question that I'm about to ask, which is basically going to be, like, do you have a Mount Rushmore of games? Like, and I phrase it this way because I realized asking people their favorite game, their favorite series is really hard because it's really hard. It's fun to put people on the spot, regardless of how prepared they are, because it's a mean question, no matter how you cut it. However, do you have a Mount Rushmore of games? And if you do, what would be on that mountain?
Oh, that's a really good question. I like the phrasing of Mount Rushmore as well, because it's like I think when you say like what's your one favorite game, it's like really hard to pick one, but to have like a few of like what's the whatever four on
I
Mount
I
Rushmore.
think there's four faces on the mountain.
Okay.
Question mark?
Two Canadians trying to figure it out. um okay, so I know I just did a whole bunch of talking about the importance of indie games, but I'm probably going to list four AAA games. I'm so sorry. But for me, um, it's got to be Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. If I'm cheating, there's Ocarina of Time is tied with that. Um, maybe like a Bloodborne. Uh, ooh, okay. Yakuza 0. If I'm cheating, it's all of the Yakuzas combined into one head. Um, ooh, and for the fourth one, I feel like I should pick something a little smaller. Um, maybe Katamari Damacy. We just talked about it. We just talked about, that kind of era of weird PlayStation games. Yeah, I think those four games are masterpieces for different reasons and are all very important to me as like a creative, but also as a player. Um, yeah, I think that those are the four. If I had to pick four,
So thank you for sharing that. And those are all very, in my mind, strong picks, or at least, you know, yeah, as I said, in my mind, they're strong picks. I like, I'm always a fan of someone that has Ocarina of Time after Majora's Mask. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, to someone of culture, you know?
yes, we see each other.
Um, if only because, there, I have to be careful because this could be considered preachy or soapboxy, but like Ocarina of Time is just a link to the past in prettier graphics, so like, like Majora's Mask isn't. So, it already wins on that merit alone. You know what I mean?
I think for me, Because I didn't Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game. So, like, as, like, a whatever how old I was when that game came out, I didn't know about, Link to the Past, and so for me, I don't really feel that way about it, but I think that's, like, a very valid way of thinking about it. I think for me, I can see, like, objectively, Ocarina of Time is, like, a masterpiece, but personally, I just loved Majora's Mask. I was obsessed with it as a kid. That was the game that got me interested in wanting to make video games, you know? I, um a lot of my games, my personal games have to do with, like, death and grief, and that was kind of like my first not even video game, but piece of media where death and grief were talked about so plainly. And as, like, an 8-year-old or 9-year-old, whatever I was when that came out, I was like, "Whoa." Like, that had such a profound impact on me, and so I think, I could talk for days about how I like the mechanics more of it than Ocarina, but I think really, truly, it just comes down to, like, a personal like, it just really, really resonated with me and still does. Like, I've replayed those games so many times, and each time I play Majora's Mask, I'm like, "Oh, I remember why this is so important to me, you know?"
Yes, on a just on the topic. For me, my first Zelda was the original Zelda. I'm 38. I'm old. Um, but for me, A Link to the Past was the first Zelda that I I want to say like soloed. I played it, as a person that was of age enough to have sentient thoughts or make memories, or at least consistently be sentient and make memories. If that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, the jump up from Ocarina of Time, that was like the first realization that games could be immersive. Uh,
Yeah.
because like, I was 90, 99, 2000 ish. Um, I was like 11, 12, what have you. And like seeing that was like just such an amazing thing. So like I 100% can understand going from that and then going to Majora's Mask and having like just the way that it was presented and the topics and the theming and everything um being like such an impact, because for me as well it was such an impact because of just like what they were able to do. Now I want to
Yeah.
stress how funny it is to say this looking back at the Nintendo 64 and be like, "Oh yeah, it was an immersive experience on the Nintendo 64."
But it was mind-blowing. I remember, yeah, like, you're so correct about it, right? Because yeah, I remember just I don't know if this is, like, an age thing or just the jump from 2D to 3D, but yeah, I wanted to live in Hyrule. Like, it just felt so I think that's, like, still the thing that gets me to this day. Like, that's the thing I love about video games is, like, how like, worlds that feel that you could live in them, and it's funny to look at it now in hindsight because it's so, low poly, like, but, yeah, I'm right there with you. I absolutely get it.
Yes, yes, the yeah, it's weird to look back on that era with that kind of nostalgia and be like, "Oh yeah," just in the comparison to what exists today and what have you. Um, the other thing I'd want to ask about, because for me, Katamari was my first real exposure to trying to think of the nicest way to put it, but there really isn't. It was my first real exposure to what the hell is going on with you, Japan.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone that grew up watching anime. I was watching anime before this. I had played some other weird games before this as well. But my experience of Katamari was it was the first, like, what in the hell is happening? Like, what kind of drugs do you guys have? What's happening? So that's my take. I'm wondering for you, what puts it on the mountain.
So I actually didn't play Katamari until like maybe 5 years ago. It was pretty recent. And so like I knew about it because I would go to conventions, or like I'd go to my cousin's house and he had it. He had Parappa. But I didn't actually play the game myself until, yeah, like maybe 2000, or not 2000, sorry. Jesus. 2020. Um damn. But yeah, like during COVID. And I there was just something about like I kind of burnt myself out making games. This is like, oh no, I played it even before that. Sorry, I'm getting my times crossed mixed up. Okay, so I was working on a lot of projects around like mid 2019, and I kind of burned out. And I just kind of like got so sick of making games, and it was like a really big moment of like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like burnout is real, you know. No matter how much you love your job, no matter how much you love the thing you're doing, it can happen. And I was working on too many things and was kind of pushing myself too much, and I just like kind of fell out of love a little bit with the art form. And my partner at the time, I can't remember how it came up, but they were like, "Hey, we should play Katamari. I think you'd like it." And I played it, and I just like fell in love with how weird it is. And not even weird, just like the sheer amount of objects that someone had to model for that game. And because they have to have like thousands of these weird objects on screen at a given time and like made very quickly, they're super stylized, right? And that style has held up over however many years it's been since that game first came out, right? And so I, as a person whose background is like primarily in like stylized weird art, that game kind of got me out of my burnout and got me excited to make art for games again. And I just fell in love with it. And it's weird. It's such like a weird, goofy game. And like even like the dioramas, like again, like I said before, I really love like environments in games. I love the like just looking around worlds and wanting to live in the worlds. And in Katamari, those worlds are so dense with stuff, and like everything is telling a story. It's like it isn't just a pile of shrimp. It's a pile of shrimp, and they're putting on a play for a bunch of mice that are wearing kimonos. Like it's like everything is so thoughtful in its weirdness. And yeah, I played that game, and then I played the sequel, and then I played the sequel after that, and I just I don't know, I just have a lot of love for weird stylized art and games that are just so joyful and stupid complimentary, you know. um yeah, and that kind of helped me rediscover joy in my own art. um and yeah, I ended up uh taking a job at Drinkbox pretty shortly after that and working on Nobody Saves the World, which in and of itself is like a very stylized, stupid, complimentary game. Um, and yeah, I just, whenever I feel a little bit like burnt out or like down on myself or whatever, or just like down in general, I go back to Katamari. Katamari is kind of my comfort game in that way. Just remembering that something silly and goofy and weird is just so like that's like the point, you know. It is like it doesn't need to have a $1 billion budget to be fun and playful. So that's why it's on my Mount Rushmore for me.
So thank you for sharing that and speaking to that. And it's I like the journey through it. You know what I mean? The getting there, the playing through them, the realizations, and what have you. And I think as someone who typically loves absurdist humor or just absurdity, I think there is probably no better game to help pull you out of the depths of the despair of burnout than something like Katamari.
Right? Yeah.
um, However, all of the things you said, I would like to say, none of them helped beat the allegations or my allegations that what the hell, Japan? But
You
no,
know
but
what?
thank you
Yeah.
for oh,
Oh no,
sorry.
yeah. I don't have anything to say to that. Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say something and then I forgot it. So no worries.
So, but no, thank you again for speaking that, and sorry for, throwing a wrench into your line of thought.
No, no.
But, that's I think that's important as well because you touched on, it being like your comfort game, and I think that's something a lot of people have, and it's always nice to know that people have, right? Because, like, it, just up gesturing broadly, right? The world. Um, it's, having something you can go to that's going to consistently make you feel good, or at least, make you laugh is very important. So I'm happy that you have a comfort game and that you found it and like, that it's fun for you still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I am going to ask this just because, like uh Majora's Mask, Bloodborne, thematically those are kind of similar. The Yakuza series, Katamari, in a through a lens, those are also kind of similar. Um, in they're both absurd. I don't know.
Yes,
Um, but
absolutely.
I am wondering, like, what is it that makes gaming enjoyable to you? And I believe, and I apologize if you had mentioned, I think you mentioned it as you were, you know, going through some of the other things, and I apologize if it didn't click in my head. So my apologies if you already touched on this, but what makes gaming enjoyable to you?
That's a really good question. I think for me, um, I don't know. I really love the. I mean, the world. I kind of mentioned it before, I think, but I love just like living in a world, like a fictional world, and like I think that's also why what drew me to environment art. That's my day job at Drinkbox. Is I'm the principal environment artist, and um, that's kind of like where I started out in graphic design, and then like over the years did more and more and more environment art, and I ended up. That's kind of where I'm at now, and that's like where I love to be. Is I love just like being in a world that is like very thoughtful and like in its own way. And I think that's why that kind of connects my Rushmore games now that I think about it. So that's a really good question. Because, I talked about Majora's Mask or Ocarina, but Majora's Mask, just like living in that world and um, Katamari and living in this kind of absurdist world. But Bloodborne has incredible world building and just like environmental design. It's so gorgeous and so gothic. And I don't want to do any spoilers in case anyone hasn't played it, but there's a certain point in the game where things kind of change and like, oh, I really wish I could relive that for the first time. Like you kind of you experience that once and it's this like, whoa, this huge experience of experiencing it. And um I wish I could relive that again. And in a way, that's the thing I love the most about the Yakuza series is those games. We could say anything about them. They come off as like really serious. If you play them, you know that they are super absurd, like very goofy, and they have never heard of ludonarrative dissonance, and it works. Those games are so and like endearing. But the thing I love the most about Yakuza games is just like the cities, the environments, their own characters. They have these fictional versions of real life places. So Kamurocho and I think it's Dotonbori and those worlds, even though they're based off of like existing places in Japan, it's like these worlds in the Yakuza universe are so much their own thing. And if you play the games consecutively, you see how they change from game to game. And, Yakuza 0 is a prequel. It takes place in the 80s, and you walk through these cities that you've gotten so used to playing, and you're like, oh, this is what it would have looked like in the 80s. And it's just like they put so much love into these environments and these worlds that people live in. And I don't know. I think for me, when I play a game, it doesn't always have to be this way. I'm always happy to play. I'm happy to play a crossword. Like it doesn't have to always be about the environment. But I really love games that just like really put you into this world that was like so thought out. And I love just like spending time in those worlds, just like looking at stuff. I love just like looking at signage, or looking at the weird little guys in Katamari, or, you know, looking at the weird little guys in Bloodborne. um, and yeah, I think that's what draws me to games. So like, I know we already not complained. We already made some thoughtful commentary about quadruple A video games, but I will be playing Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes out. Because just that world is, I need to know what that 15-year-old world looks like, and the love that they put into it, because they do put love into those games. And I think that's for me like what the draw is of games, at least personally.
So thank you to speaking to that. And, this isn't a topic I've broached with many people, just mainly because it's such a weird thing. But you talking about like the lived in world, it makes me want to ask, and this is meant to be a quick one because, we're getting close to that time. I want to let you go, if you're eating, what have you. I'm telegraphing so that way you don't feel compelled to uh, think this is a big question, but it's I say that, but it's not probably not an easy question. But like for me, games that have a world that do create such a sense of lived in, um, Cyberpunk 2077 or what have you, like games like that, where for that I beat the entirety of it. I did everything
Whoa.
prior to Phantom Liberty, so I have to go back to it because there's a whole bunch of new stuff changed. But anyway, uh, I'm wondering for someone that enjoys games where the emphasis is on that lived in world, that feeling, the vermicelitude of it, or what have you. Um, I'm wondering if you sometimes have the same issue I do, which is grieving that the game is going to be over because you know there's not much else you can do,
Oh
right? That
yeah.
at some point you're just going to be signing on or starting it up just to stand there and exist, but there's nothing to do, and you have to grieve the fact that, at some point very soon you're going to be turning it off and never turning it on again because that's it, right?
Yes, 100%. I so rarely actually finish open world games because I just want to experience every possible thing, and like see every possible thing. Breath of the Wild, never finished it. Love that game. Skyrim. Oh my god, I don't know if it holds up now. I know it's a bit old at this point, but that game is so like just incredible world building. And you don't think like, hey, a game in the winter, like how expansive could this be? But it's like they have like 8 different types of snow tundra. That world is huge. And so I never finished Skyrim. I played it like 8 times. I never finished it because I was like, I don't want to I don't want to grieve this game, And so if I never finish it, I never have to. So I just keep starting it over again. But yeah, that is for real. For real. That is a thing for real, for sure.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing too, which is why I've rarely broached it with people because like rarely does the opportunity to even ask it come up, right? 'Cause it's not something you just walk in and be like, "Have you ever grieved a game's ending?" You're like, "Oh, okay, content," like, "Where are we where's this from?"
Oh, I
But no,
understand for
I'm
sure.
glad I'm not the only one. Now, Gabby, as I said, I do wanna work you towards the door. I don't wanna keep you here too much longer. It's a Monday evening. I wanna let you relax, especially, it's the beginning of the week. I don't want you to be burnt out or, uh burnt out's the wrong word in the context of everything, but I don't, I want to let you relax before the rest of the week actually has to begin, right? However, I do have two more things I want to hit you with. One being the lightning round, and the other being, as I touched on earlier, the one of the points of the podcast is the guest, the person that I'm speaking with. So I want to ask before I hit you with the lightning round, outside of games, what is it that you enjoy doing? How do you relax? And if the answer just is it's more game stuff, by all means, that's perfectly valid. I still like to ask.
I think that's a great question. I do play games. I feel like not as much as I did prior to working in games. I feel like, and I do find that I really enjoy like little tiny. I appreciate really small games now more than ever. Even though I just talked about a bunch of open world games. But other than video games, my girlfriend, her background is in film, and she just loves movies so much. And when we started dating, I started seeing more movies with her. Not even at home, but just like in theaters. Like we go to theaters all the time to see movies. And so I really love watching movies. She's kind of opened my eyes to, not that I didn't watch movies before, but we watch so many now, and I love them. I love watching movies with her, but especially horror movies. I love horror movies, and it's like a weird comfort that comes from watching things that are deeply scary. I don't know. So yeah, big into horror movies. And otherwise, I really love, I like making stuff, and I like learning how to do stuff. So that's like a very broad, but any kind of art form that is not digital. Not that I don't love doing digital art, but just like as a day job, you do it a lot, And so um, I love, knitting, pottery. I started learning how to tattoo a couple years ago. I've done a few tattoos on friends since then. So yeah, just like non-digital arts and watching horror movies are probably the two big ones for me.
So thank you for sharing that. And, in the mindset of brevity, mindset's probably the wrong word. Uh, there are two things I want to hit on. One really quick. Um, as someone that also lives in Ontario, if you have access to Costco, the Landmark Cinema discount card from Costco is about the same price as two movie tickets alone, but then you get two drinks and two popcorn as well. So, like, I just feel the need to share that one if you have access to a Costco, because if you go to the movies a lot, it saves you like 20 or I don't know how much popcorn costs now. It's a lot.
Probably, yeah. Uh, I know I said probably. I know for a fact it does because we buy it all the time. We just got a Costco membership, so I will absolutely look into that because love an excuse to go to Costco. Love an excuse to go to the movies, and so that's right up my alley for sure.
E- Awesome. I'm glad that that information will be useful. And I'll ask this one just as a kind of a drive-by. Do you have any recommendations for horror movies that you think people should check out?
Yeah, speaking of Canadian media, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I feel like it gets not enough love in the grand scheme of things, is Ginger Snaps. It's a werewolf movie about a teenage girl and her sister, and it came out in like 2000, so probably like the same year as Majora's Mask. And it's just really good. It's really good, and it deserves more love. Um, and if you want like a recent horror movie, Obsession I know it's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of praise, and it's so worth it. It's not like it's not a lighthearted horror movie by any means. It's quite sad, or not sad, but like bleak, I would say. But it's good. It's really good, and I hope it gets some awards come award season, because it's just very cool to see such a tiny budgeted thing get so much traction.
Yes. So, thank you for those recommendations, the shout outs, if you will. I'm gonna take a look at Ginger Snaps. Obsession was already kind of on my list, so not to, say I'm not gonna take a look at that. But Ginger Snaps, I'm gonna make a habit. Habit's the wrong word. A point. There we go. I'm gonna make a point of checking it out. So thank you for that recommendation.
I hope you like it. Yeah.
Now, Gabby, as I said, I do want to work towards getting you towards the door, so that way you can enjoy your Monday evening. However, like I also said, I do want to hit you up with the lightning round before we get started, or before I let you go. Um, and with that, the reminder that these are nonsensical, they are random, so feel free to just answer them with, as fast, with as little explanation, or what have you, as however you see fit. Basically, just do with these what you will. There's no heavy expectations.
Looking forward to it. I love a weird nonsensical lightning round.
As you made that comment before we started recording, and as I said there, we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
So, with that in mind, then I'm going to open with my favorite. Which video game character do you think would most likely want uppies from a goth dommy mommy?
Oh my god, perfect. I can't help but think of Mario. You know that meme? And it's like tiny Mario, tall, goth Princess Peach. So yeah, tiny Mario, little Mario.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep, understand perfectly. That works for me if it works for you. Thank you.
I'm sending you an image.
Sorry. Oh Jesus, that one. Okay. I don't know how to properly communicate this in the medium of it being a podcast. But if anyone is, I'll figure it out. I'll find a way
It's
to put
safe
it
for
somewhere.
work. It is a safe for
It
work
is
image,
safe for work.
everybody. Don't
But if
worry.
anyone, I'll find a way to stick it somewhere when I put the episode out. But it's basically the picture of Peach in a black dress walking with Mario, small Mario, on like a dog leash chain. He looks angry, so he looks like a vicious dog. It
He's
works.
determined.
It
Yeah.
makes sense. He's determined. Thank you.
Yes, he would. Small Mario for sure is my answer.
Thank you for that. Now, on the extended topic of horror movies and whatnot, which video game character do you think is most likely pro Salem witch trials?
Oh, Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII.
No hesitation, but at the same time, I don't. Yeah, I 100%. I can see it. So thank you. Now, I want to hit you up with the final one, and I want it to be really stupid. So we'll see how this one goes. If it reaches the level of stupid, I hope for you. Which video game character do you think is most likely to put orange juice over their cereal?
Leon Kennedy. No hesitation. Just he. I like my image of Leon is he is such like a himbo, and I could just see him putting orange juice over his cereal. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's my final answer.
Thank you. I do my best sometimes to not pry for the answer just because of the nature of the beast. However, thank you because the no hesitation there, I was lost as to why and how you are like that was already in the chamber. So thank you. Calling him just a giant himbo. Thank you. That's all of the context I think is needed to think why he would do that. I appreciate the speed that one just left the chamber. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I was
Now,
like, I heard the silence, and I was like, I feel like I should explain myself a little bit.
so the silence was more me trying to process the speed of which that just shot out, right? So yes, I appreciate the explanation, if only because I was truly lost for words as to how that just got out there so quickly. So thank you. Um, Now, Gabby, as I said, that was it. That was the lightning round. I appreciate you allowing me to assault you with such nonsense. However, as I said before, I do want to work you towards the door. So, with that being said, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. However, if there was anything else you want to discuss, cool game, what you're doing, something you feel more people should just be more aware of, by all means, the floor is yours. As well, please let everyone know where they can find more information about you, which will also include in the episode description.
Amazing. Yeah, you can follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram at Gabby DaRienzo or GabbyDaRienzo.com. I'm going to be putting out a free horror game, hopefully in a few months, and so I hope you will check that out. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say except for thank you so much for having me and for letting me share that image of Peach and Mario. It's my favorite image on the internet, so whenever I get a chance to share it, I'm very excited to do so. Yeah.
So, sorry, I was saving the image before I forgot, and just laughing at it of how absurd it is. Um, but no, Cabby, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. I really appreciate you making the time to be here, for letting me, bug you with these questions and to just talk about video games. Again, I've enjoyed my time here with you, and I'm, appreciate you being here to entertain me, or entertain my nonsense. Sorry. Um, I immediately realized that sounds weird. But no, thank you thank you for letting me steal your time. I appreciate that. It's, been an absolute pleasure getting to speak with you. And
My pleasure.
if there wasn't anything else, I will shut up and I will let you get on with your evening. I'll let you get on with your Monday.
All right, thank you very much. I hope you have a good rest of your Monday as well.
You as well. It's, I hope the rest of the week treats you well.
Right back at you. I hope it's not too hot in Ottawa, because it is boiling lava hot here in Toronto. So,
Spoiler alert, I live in a house now and I have an air conditioner, so
oh, nice.
it is not insufferable. I used to live in an apartment that had no airflow and it was
Oh boy.
insufferable. So it is fantastic now. It is not too hot. I don't have to be scared.
I'm glad you had that upgrade. Very happy to hear that.
I also extend the same to you. I hope that you are not sitting in a room that's like 35 degrees all of the time.
No, we're pretty lucky as well. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. And with that, I will shut up and I will let you get on with your evening.
Okay. Thanks again for having me.
So thanks again to Gabby for making time to have this conversation with me, and thank you for joining us on the Red Tunic Podcast, as well as a special thanks to Roland Jankees for the use of music from the title track from Road Steep. And be sure to check out the episode descriptions for links to socials, websites, and other means that will allow you to learn more about or support Gabby and the podcast. While you're doing that, share, like, follow, and whatever else you think makes the algorithm work. Thanks, till next time.